Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, is to provide you an analysis that the bought-off lamestream fake media will never provide. If you want to watch or listen to the radio show, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to davejanda.com. We stream the show live every Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern. That's on Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you miss the show, we usually have the podcast up available for you by 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday evening. They're free and they're available for you 24/7 at davejanda.com. The focus of today's briefing is going to be on free speech, and in particular, this taking a knee issue that has developed in the NFL and actually in some college games as well. Look. All of us that believe in the Constitution of the United States, which should be 320 million people in our country, believe in the right of free speech. Zero doubt about that. But the question is what's occurring in the NFL with this taking a knee issue? Is that free speech, or is that a political statement that's being made in the workplace? That's a very important distinction. You see, the First Amendment does not extend into the workplace. For example, as an orthopedic surgeon, I could not be putting in patients' clinic notes political statements or sending political statements on a patient's clinic note to another colleague. Just imagine in your workplace, no matter what you do, imagine if you started screaming at the top of your lungs, Trump sucks, Obama sucks, Hillary Clinton sucks. How long would you last in the workplace? My guess is not very long. And you know, if this is all about free speech in the NFL, why haven't there been protests by the players and the coaches, the owners, over the rules that the NFL has imposed on the players and teams and coaches for decades? For example, after a touchdown, there many times is a celebration. Folks are exercising the right of free speech, but what happens? The NFL penalizes the player, sometimes the team, sometimes the coach, penalizes them, and in times fines them monetarily. Now, have you ever heard a player, a coach, or a team owner say, wait a minute, the NFL is violating my right of free speech to celebrate? You haven't. It hasn't occurred. So, when I look at it, this really isn't an issue of free speech, because if it was, this would have come up with this touchdown celebration issue years, if not decades ago. It's about bringing politics into an athletic event. Now, I don't know about you, but when I go to an athletic event, and I pay to go to an athletic event, whether it's a professional event or a college level event, I'm paying to witness an athletic event. If I wanted to witness a political event, I would go and pay to be at a political event. Second point some folks make is, well, you know, Trump's criticism is really racially motivated, and anyone who criticizes these players, they're really a racist. Stop it already. You know, when it all comes down to it, when the opposing side is out of arguments, they throw and slap around that race card as fast as they can. I saw it with my opposition to Obamacare back in 2009. I pointed out exactly in 2009 what would be happening in 2017 and 2018 if Obamacare was implemented. The first thing, nobody criticized me about my analysis or what I found in the stimulus bill where half of Obamacare was hidden and the rest of Obamacare that was in plain view in the healthcare bill. No, they didn't argue with me on those issues. They said, well, for you to oppose Obamacare, you must be a racist. My response was, no, I'm a realist, and the reality of the situation is Obamacare stripped the healthcare freedom of every person, family, and business that would be inflicted with it. I was right then in 2009, and I'm right today. So when folks start throwing the race card about, well, if you oppose this taking a knee, you're really opposing racism. You're really a racist. And this is really about racism. Okay, this past Sunday, the NFL held a game in London, England. When the national anthem of the United States was played, a number of the players took a knee. Okay. Then they played God Save the Queen, the British anthem. And the players stood in arms locking and, oh, we're supporting a Britain. Okay. Were any of those players, and I'll be kind by calling them players, aware that Britain was integral in the slave trade? And they're standing in lockstep for the British. Are you kidding me? And who fought the Civil War that had at least some semblance to do with slavery? That was in the United States. That didn't happen in Britain. Let me look at this also, this entire NFL taking a knee issue from another perspective. And it's a perspective that I think is fairly unique. I had the opportunity to get to know one of the founders of the NFL. His name was George Halas from Chicago. Coach Halas was one of the founders of the NFL that occurred in initially 1920, then 1922. And I had an opportunity to take care of Coach Halas in his later years. And Coach Halas and I actually became very good friends. And it's something I'm very proud about. But I want you to hear an experience that I personally witnessed in 1982. He died in 1983. He was very ill in 1982. And in his hospital room, he invited me to watch a Bears game with him. And myself, his administrative assistant, Ruth Hughes, and his good friend who played for the Chicago Bears many years before that, Sid Luckman, were in the room. And before the game started, like they always do, they played the national anthem. George Halas was very, very ill. I witnessed that man, the founder, one of the original founders of the NFL, to physically himself get himself out of bed. He stood at the side of his bed, put his hand over his heart, and he sang the national anthem as it was going on the television. Compare that to this guy who's now the commissioner of the NFL, Goodall, or whatever his name is. I can tell you this much. George Halas was a disciplinarian. If George Halas was alive today, and he had the ability, he would go down to the field and pick up every one of those folks kneeling and say, stand up. And this philosophy that Jerry Jones has with the Dallas Cowboys, if you are kneeling, you're going to get fired. Well, let me tell you something. It would have been far worse with Coach Halas. Here's another aspect. You know, the current commissioner of the NFL is so outraged about why Trump would say something about taking a knee. You know what? Goodall, the commissioner of the NFL, should be more outraged about what's happening with the players and their injuries, in particular, head injuries. Instead, he kind of buries that and has for years. And so have the other commissioners for decades. If the NFL brass is so worried about their players and they're being condemned for taking a knee, why aren't they worried about the head injuries they're going to inflict them for the rest of their days here on earth? And trying to set an example for the young kids playing about putting attention on this issue. No, because you know what? They just care about money. And here's the interesting thing. I believe there's going to be such a huge backlash against the NFL. And you say, well, there already has been. You ain't seen nothing yet, I believe. That they're going to lose huge amounts of money. Speaking of using huge amounts of money, let me take you back to Coach Halas. One of the conversations I had with him, we were talking about his life, and we were talking about some of his really good business decisions, founding the NFL, founding the Chicago Bears football team. And then he said to me, one of the best business decisions I ever made, nobody knows about. I go, really? What's that, Coach? He said, well, when we founded the NFL, he goes, back in 1922, they started in 20, but I think 22 it became incorporated. He goes, we had it made a nonprofit entity. I said, you mean to tell me from 1922, and this conversation occurred in 1981, 1982, I go, for 60 years it's been nonprofit? He goes, yeah. It has been, and continues. And in fact, that continued until 2015. But you know what happened in 2014? Check it out on Twitter, Donald Trump's Twitter feed. Back in 2014, Trump called attention to the nonprofit status of the NFL and called for it to be removed. And it was in 2015. So do you think some of this outrage, this incredible outrage by the NFL, might be the NFL trying to get back at Trump for calling attention to the fact that it was a nonprofit entity back in 2014, to the point where Trump blew such a big whistle on it, the NFL lost their nonprofit status in 2015? You think this might be a little bit of payback as opposed to moral outrage? Think about it. Bottom line is, I attend many sporting events every year. I attend sporting events, not political events. If the players in the NFL were really concerned about the fans and the sport and the future of the sport, they'd stick with playing sports. And if they want to protest or they want to voice their opinion after or before a game when they're not in the workplace, knock themselves out. Whatever they want, as long as it's peaceful. But in the workplace, like they're doing now, not so much. Folks, if you'd like more information in this regard, please tune in every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. You can stream it at davejanda.com, or again, we have the podcast always available for you later on Sunday evening, usually by 9 p.m. at davejanda.com as well. Until next time, this is Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.